Oh, there it is.
There we go. Awesome. It might be online. So, okay. All right. I will go ahead and call the meeting to order at 7:08. I'm Jonathan Newsma, 4th Ward Council Member and Chair of the Redistricting Committee. Welcome, everybody. I'll do a quick roll call. Council Member Wynn. Here. Council Member Reed.
Here.
Is Council Member Burns present online? I don't see him. Calling once, calling twice, and Councilmember Newsma and myself, I am here. So a quorum being present, we will continue with the meeting, starting with approval of our minutes from March 28th.
I move approval of the minutes from March 28th.
It's been moved by Councilmember Wynn, and it's about to be seconded by Councilmember Reed.
It is seconded by Councilmember Reed.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The minutes of last month are passed unanimously, which now brings us to public comment. And we do have a number of folks signed up for public comment and a number of folks in the room. So I am going to go through the list that I have for folks who signed up online. If you are online or in the room, we'll just take you as your name comes up. When we run through this list that I have, if there's anybody else, we'll get to you at that point. So number 1 on the list is Calvin Bradford, followed by Lester Asher, and then Valley Lev. If we can all agree to be succinct in our comments, I won't start a stopwatch. If things start to get out of control, I'll impose a 2-minute rule. So Mr. Bradford, you have the floor, sir, if you are present.
Yes, I'm present.
Okay.
Although I thought we had 3 to 5 minutes according to the council guidelines, but anyway. My first question is, do we need to redistrict? And I think the answer is no. It's not required by federal law. Supreme Court only intervenes in civil rights cases by its most recent decisions. I've been an expert in witnessing 50 civil rights cases, and there are no civil rights issues related to our wards, and the state does not require it. Second, the process is not necessarily independent. One original guiding principle for this committee was the protection of incumbency. In this context, I think creating a committee that's made up entirely of council members raises the specter of possible gerrymandering when the city likes to protect an image of neutrality and independence. Do we need the downtown to be in multiple wards? I would say no. Splitting the downtown into multiple wards wasn't part of the original July last year presentation. The committee seems to have added that in April of this year. But there's no definition of what comprises the downtown, so I don't know how you could decide where to put it. And there's no rationale given for why the downtown should be split up into separate wards. There are pleasantly a split between the 1st and the 4th wards in the downtown, but only the 4th ward is represented on this committee. The 1st ward actually contains all of the downtown blocks, which I would see as from CTA to Chicago Avenue, from Davis to Clark, clearly being downtown. All of those are in the 1st ward except the one which is assigned to the 4th ward. So if there are reasons to take Sherman Plaza out of Ward 1, actually Ward 1 is one of the 3 wards that had the largest loss in population. So it seems to me it needs to have areas added, not removed, which can easily be done by taking areas north of Dempster in the 3rd ward and allocating them to the 1st ward. This proposal, which surgically removes the block containing Sherman Plaza, takes one of the largest residential buildings in the city out of downtown when it's essentially downtown. It sits directly across from Fountain Square and it's east of the CTA. Removing this building, I think, is illogical, and it adds an awkward appendage to Ward 4 that undermines Illinois' guidance that wards shall be as compact and continuous in territory as practical, and the city's guide recognizing existing neighborhoods and geographic boundaries. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Lester Asher.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Okay. All I wanted to indicate was that just as a resident here in the 1st ward, I am not in favor of moving to the 4th ward, primarily because I feel that the interests of the people in in the downtown area are substantially different, or at least somewhat different, from the interests in the surrounding single-family dwellings that would be in the fourth ward. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Valley Lev, followed by Nancy Bokor.
Okay, so some of my comments dealt with some technical issues. They were already covered, so I'll go right into the fundamental issue that I have with this. I try to find what is the main objective, other than getting the population balanced. And I noticed the goal of preserving neighborhoods and other communities of interest. And I think that what we're recommending to do here is in a blatant conflict with that. Here's why. Sherman Plaza is obviously an integral part of the first ward. When we wake up in the morning, we see the first ward all day long. All we see is first ward, not to mention just the Fountain Square. Everything we see is that. When we go out of the house for shopping, for going to a restaurant, to go to a haircut, my wife goes to a hairdresser salon. Everywhere where we go to do anything, if we want to go for a walk with a dog, if we have one, it's in the first ward. So also one more point, all the traffic I think that goes by us, it's either originating or terminating in first ward. So when you add all these things together, what happens in the first ward is all of it very important to us. And if everything that happens there is what's important to us, shouldn't we have a voice? Shouldn't we have an alderman who is responsible for first ward who would address our issues? I was very impressed by yourself. I think that you would be also a very good alderman, but your interest will not be what happens in first ward, while the alderman for first ward, that's what they're on the board for. So these are my objections.
Sure. Nancy Bokor and then Malika Gardner. Is Nancy Bokor online, in person? Okay, we will go to Malika Gardner, and then I have Kelly Nichols.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to read it so I can stay under 2 minutes and respect the time.
Thank you.
Okay. I want to speak briefly on the drafting of the new map for Evanston. Evanston has acknowledged its wrongs regarding literally picking up the homes of Black residents from the lakefront and moving them to the 5th Ward. Evanston has acknowledged its harm in redlining. Evanston prides itself on being a pioneer in reparations with providing new toilets and windows as Black people's reparations for those past harms. Due to vocal community members who never gave up on speaking out and Alderperson Devon Reed's motion and fight during the 2 reparation meetings, now there is at least a direct cash payment option for grown adults to do what they want with their quote unquote reparations. Many agree that $25,000 does not come close to repairing the harms that the city of Evanston has done to the Black community for generations. It's only right that number one, you give the value of what those homes would be today that were moved from the lakefront to the 5th Ward to the descendants. Number two, that you completely wipe the ward lines clean and start new, where each ward is able to get a piece of the natural amenities and economic assets that Evanston has to offer and that we love. Even if the 8th, 5th, and 2nd wards get a block of the lake and or downtown Evanston, every ward should get a piece. One of the gripes racists have with reparations is that they have nothing to do with what happened in the past. Wipe the ward lines clean so that we are not continuing the harm that was put in place years ago. Wipe the ward lines clean so that we are not continuing the harm that was put in place years ago. Wipe the ward lines clean so that we are not continuing the harm that was put in place years ago. Wipe the ward lines clean so that we are not continuing the harm that was put in place years ago. Wipe the ward lines clean so that we are not continuing the harm that was put in place years ago. Wipe the ward lines clean so that we are not continuing the harm that was put in place years ago. Wipe the ward lines clean so that we are not continuing the harm that was put in place years ago. Wipe the ward lines clean so that we are not continuing the harm that was put in place years ago. Wipe the ward lines clean so that we are not continuing the harm that was put in place years ago. Wipe the ward lines clean so that we are not continuing the harm that was put in place years ago. Wipe the ward lines clean so that we are not continuing the harm that was put in place years ago. Wipe the ward lines clean so that we are not continuing the harm that was put in place years ago. Wipe the ward lines clean so Let's not continue to build upon the harm with just minor tweaks to the map. Change it. Your deadline for the new map of the wards is 2024. There's time to bring in a sociologist and an urban planning consultant and involve residents to be on the committee. It should not be drawn by the alderman. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Kelly Nichols and then P.L. Berger Sr. Kelly Nichols, that might have been from a different list that is popping up on this one.
She was on the public list last month.
Okay. This does say ward map redistricting. So is there a P.L. Berger?
Yes, Percy Berger.
Mr. Berger, please go ahead.
Thank you for the service that this committee is doing for the city and the opportunity to speak before the redistricting committee. I've lived in Evanston for over 50 years in 7 of the 9 wards. And if I count my son, I've lived in 8 of the 9 wards. My comments relate to a couple issues. The design of the process to take a look at redistricting. The first one, and I think we will all agree, as the mayor noted, is the flaw in the construction of the committee to look at it. For the committee to be composed 100% of aldermen to design what the wards may look like, I think is an inherent problem in appearance. Maybe not in substance and form, but we're starting off with an appearance issue. The second issue is we do not have enough members of the community serving on the committees. So if we have 4 aldermen on the committee, I would think that every ward should have 2 people from that ward on the committee to better represent the issues that they see with respect to the wards. But before you can design what the ward should look like, I think there's an overarching opportunity for the city, the alderman, to look at what contributions a restructuring of the ward can have on making the city a total unified city. I've heard a couple of comments up to this point where people talk very specifically about wards. We do not want to become and continue to be a city of 9 wards. We want to be a unified city that in fact have 9 divisions or 10 or 12, but where we think of it as a complete city. And one of the ways to do that is to not, as the great pen and pencil and the T-Square has done, is design and divide cities by amenities, natural, man-made, and design populations by race, ethnicity, with respect to those cities. The current wards in Evanston structure has existed basically since 1860, and those wards from those days to today still look like they did then in substance and in form. So we ultimately have to get away from being able to identify Evanstonians by where they live or what ward they are in, which is an indication of economic wealth, educational opportunities, business opportunities, social opportunities goes with wards. I've lived in the alderman sitting next to you, her ward, for 22 years. I've lived in the Lakefront district for 19 of those 22 years. People still think and talk about wards. I will wrap it up in a second, sir. But please try to do something in a holistic way with all of the people involved and try to eliminate the discussion about I live in Ward X or I live in Ward Y, where people will say I live in Evanston, where we feel that all the wards are essentially equal in all respects. Thank you, sir. And thank you to the rest of the committee for giving us this opportunity to express our feelings.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of the list that I have in front of me. Is there anybody in the room that would like to make comment that hasn't done so already? Going once, going twice. So what I would like to do now is.
Excuse me, Alderman.
Oh, and online. I'm sorry, I forgot online. Sounds like Ms. Payton would like to make a comment. So you have the floor.
Yes. Hi, I agree with many of the previous speakers, and I feel like you're trying to push this one map through when it was supposed to be, and I've attended, I would say, 95% of these meetings. And when we had discussed before that the public and what I had requested, or think that would be reasonable requests, that we all have a large meeting, perhaps in a parasol room with all the community to discuss several maps, not one map, and then you're gonna make a decision tomorrow. I don't understand what the hurry is, and I'm still, I hope that enough people in the community spoke today and change your mind, that you will allow us to meet in the parasol room or something where we can all have a say in what's happening. Because from the last meeting, when it was supposed to be 4 maps and then all of a sudden it's 1 map, is inappropriate. So I hope that you will do the right thing and listen to what the people said and some of the previous speakers, that we all live in one city. We should all have a voice. My family's been here over 100 years. And so that I hope that you will have an open meeting to discuss this further. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Payton. I see Fred Tenenbaum has his hand raised, and then there's a refit. So we'll go to Mr. Tenenbaum first.
How do you relate hundreds of people that will be getting off the trains and the L's that will be walking down our side of the street, but yet we're going to be in a different legal position, being technically across the street? There's a lot of traffic that we have on our side that you're never going to relate to, as well as those people shopping, people going into the stores that are in the building, and we're going to be in 4, and they think they're shopping in 1. I think it is unfair, and it's just a method of getting people to a place you want them, but not a place that we all want them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. One more hand up. It's refit. I'm not sure who that is. If you could identify yourself.
My name is Margie Gordon. I live at 807 Davis. We all have a deep investment in the community. I would like to be heard that I would like to continue being in the first ward. My partner lives in Washington, D.C. We go back and forth a lot. This is starting to feel like taxation without representation. That's not what we all came here for. Again, I'm Margie Gordon. I would like to remain in the first ward. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon. Is there anybody else online? Let me just make sure I can see. everybody. Give me 1 second here. All right. I don't see any additional hands raised. Just to make sure I'm not missing something, if somebody online does want to make a public comment, please unmute yourself and state your name. Okay. Since I do not see anybody online or in the room, last call in the room, one more in the room. Okay.
I think, a lot of people have spoken very eloquently.
I'm sorry, can you say your name, sir?
Stuart Green. I'm from 807 Davis, Sherman Plaza. I think a lot of people have spoken very eloquently. I think one of the things you keep hearing in these comments over and over again is people need to have a voice. And to have a voice, they need to have a sense of access. And one of the things I'm hearing, and I share this concern, is that were the Sherman Plaza building to be moved to the 4th district, it seems that there's a lot of voices in the 4th district that have a great many concerns that aren't particularly and specifically relevant to the individuals who live in 807 and who occupy that area eastward, typically into the downtown area, and feel a part of the downtown and need to have their voices heard regarding how they live and work and function as a community in the downtown. So I think, with all due respect to the notion of one Evanston, and I think we all want to participate in that and feel part of Evanston, different parts of Evanston have different concerns and different issues and different problems. And so I think there needs to be a sense that when we're talking about the issues of 807 Davis, that we can reach out to somebody whose primary interest is in the downtown area, and that seems to be in District 1. And that's why I would like to stay in District 1, along with several of the other individuals in this room and spoken of. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I just want to quickly speak. This is Carl Klein. So I think that the reason that what you're hearing about the downtown is because we haven't had redistricting in 20 years, since 2003. And since 2003, the city of Evanston has seen an inordinate number of development in the downtown. The downtown is now a residential neighborhood. It used to be corporation. We used to be called Corporation City. Everyone used to be here. Nabisco, Rust-Oleum, all those companies used to be in the city, but now we have a large amount of developments that have happened in 20 years in the city. And I think that that constituency should be heard. I mean, it's now a neighborhood. People work there, people go to the shop, they go to the movie, they dine there. But for some people, it's their neighborhood. And I think that personally, I feel responsible for this because it was my email that resulted in Devon Reed's motion to create this committee. So I feel that, what we're hearing is legitimate, and I feel like this community needs to be heard. So thank you.
Absolutely. Your email created all of this?
All right. Anybody else online or in person for public comment? Seeing none, I would like to, as expeditiously as possible, read through the 35 comments that we received online so that everybody's voice is heard here. I think there are a lot of folks who we've already heard from who are on this list. So we'll try not to duplicate, but I will just go through this fairly quickly. We have received, as of this morning, 35 online comments. Of those 35, 14 were related to the Sherman Plaza building. So I want to make that note. So I'm going to go through this kind of fairly quickly. And before I do, if maybe we can have Mark pull up a map so that if we need to zoom in somewhere to give a picture to the words, it might be easier to follow along. So while that's happening, I'm just going to take them in the order that they appear on this document here. there is, and I'm going to paraphrase if that's all right. There's a question about what I understand to be the lagoon on Northwestern's campus, and why is that split into 2 wards? We can't control where the census boundaries are, so that I think explains why the lagoon is bifurcated. And I'll, if other council or other committee members want to weigh in, please jump in.
No voters.
The next comment has to do with that portion of the Northwestern campus, which is north of Library Place. And the comment is those blocks should be in the first ward. Yeah, right there. I will acknowledge that in the draft map that we're discussing tonight, we've already moved to the southern portion of the Northwestern campus from Ward 7 into Ward 1. So we've made some progress along the lines this commenter is suggesting. All right, next comment has to do with that funky portion of the second ward, which extends into the downtown area. We did receive several comments essentially saying that, that it's a little bit awkward to have that portion of the second ward extend into downtown. And I'll let Councilmember Nguyen speak for herself, but I will speak for myself in saying that as we were wrestling with how to draw this map and following our philosophy of minimal impacts, we had to balance several different competing factors and couldn't achieve 100% of every objective. And we were left with that portion of the second ward still looking kind of funky in order to maintain multiple ward members with downtown representation. We tried to clean it up and could not do any better than what we came up with here. It's not that bad. Okay. The next comment had to do with, it says Dempster, I think they meant Main, the south side of Main Street, with a suggestion that both sides of Main Street, and we're talking about the Main Dempster Mile, so Main west of the tracks. The comment is that both of those should be in the same ward to maintain the business district in the same ward. The suggestion was that those blocks should all be in the 9th ward. We've got them shown drafted in the 4th ward. Next comment is from a resident of the Perlman Apartments who would like to be kept in the 1st ward. That is north of Emerson between the tracks and Sherman. That gets into that funky Ward 2 appendage there. And Mark, you're doing a great job of keeping up with this here. Next comment is some concerns, including one block of the 4th ward that has Greenwood Care, and a concern about the 4th ward having Albany Care, Greenwood Care, and the Margarita Inn, which is a lot for a single council member. I would agree. I also think the 7th ward council member would agree that having the university, the stadium, and in the hospital, and Charlie Clark is a lot for one council member, so we can't pick our work here. A couple of comments about the blocks, the census blocks that the cemetery consists of, and a suggestion that they move to Ward 8. The next comment about the intersection of Dempster and Chicago, with a suggestion that essentially the 4 corners of that intersection should all be in the 3rd ward so that the small businesses are in the same ward. Next comment, skipping around here to Noyes Street This is blocks south of Noise, south of the Cultural Center, blocks that include the Coffee Lab. Suggestion is that these blocks should be in the first ward so that both sides of Noise Street are in the same ward. Another comment essentially about that funky Ward 2 appendage. A comment about Sherman Plaza. Another comment about the Ward 2 appendage. I won't read each one of these individually because it's all kind of the same idea. Another comment about Sherman Plaza. A comment that Ward 1 should stay untouched because it has always been the heart of the city. The problem there is that the first ward is currently undersized by 6.8%. So we're going to have to add some territory. Another Sherman Plaza comment. Another comment regarding process that seems to focus on the first ward. A Sherman Plaza comment. Some of these are from folks we've heard from tonight. Another Sherman Plaza, a comment regarding some specific blocks in the along the border of the 4th Ward and 2nd Ward, suggesting that some of the changes we're proposing there don't need to happen. You can zoom out a little bit, Mark. Yeah, we try to straighten the line out there, a suggestion that we don't maybe need to do that. Also a suggestion that we should put Robert Crown and Washington School in a separate blocks, but the way the census block is drawn, those two properties are in the same census block, and we are following the guidelines that our ward boundaries have to follow the census block border. A couple more comments about Sherman Plaza. And we are now almost halfway through. Another Sherman Plaza. Another lengthy comment that gets into process. It suggests that we're attempting to put students into one ward to give them more of a voice. Councilmember Wynn, if you want to speak to that for a second.
I think actually that when I was looking at my, drawing my map, I didn't even consider the students, and students really live all over the city. So, and they generally don't vote that much.
So a suggestion, just in terms of transparency, reading the public comment here, that putting more students in one ward would give students a disproportionate voice, which is would give that alderman who has more students an outsized role in and might be more amenable to Northwestern's desires. That's the comment anyway. Another Sherman Plaza comment. And then a couple of comments from Council Member Kelly with regarding not diminishing the student voice and also suggesting that the Noise Street Business District would be better served by keeping that in one ward, in this case, the first ward. A comment from, and I'm not reading names for all of these, another Sherman Plaza comment, a comment regarding the border between the 5th Ward and the 7th Ward, and that block right there, Mark, you're reading my mind, that moving that block from 7 to 5 is counterproductive to our stated demographic goals. Another comment about Sherman Plaza, another comment about that funky Ward 2 appendage. Essentially another comment about that funky Ward 2 appendage, another comment about Sherman Plaza, and then one test comment from our communications woman who set up the forum. So I've read through all these public comments. This document will be in the minutes of this meeting, for the public record. So that, I think, concludes the public comment portion of this meeting. So we have spent, almost 45 minutes hearing public comment in person, reviewing the online public comment. And so now the intent of the meeting is to take this public comment into account and see what we're going to do with it.
Well, I think that we should, because we have had the most comments from a concentrated group from Sherman Plaza, we should look at what happens to the map if you leave Sherman Plaza and then what's the ripple effect that then happens in terms of the numbers. So
let's do some, maybe we'll do some real-time remapping here. And let's just note that our starting point is this map here, which has a 3.35% deviation and impacts 4,592 people. That's our starting point. If we went back, we just switch those two back.
Something looks off here. It says one has 11,000 people. I'm trying to find a clean option A. I think
they've gotten wonky?
Yes.
Okay, so let's not start with this. Do you have that alternative one? That looks like.
Oh, maybe just take a second to snap.
Yeah, it takes a second. So we want to zoom up to that fourth ward, first ward boundary. Yeah, so maybe zoom out just a little bit. So this map unswitches those two downtown blocks. Noting that we still have a funky appendage of fourth ward would remain downtown. And in order, that has if that's all we did, that would make the fourth ward significantly undersized. So to start making up for that, we moved another section of fourth ward, the third ward into the fourth ward. That right there, Mark, yes. And so these numbers.
What happens? What are the numbers for what's showing?
Yeah, so our deviation under this map is 3.04% and impacted population of 3672. Yeah.
So that's actually not that big a percentage difference, is it? I mean, the map we started with was 3.6.
The map, our option A that we started with was 3.35. Right, so this is an improvement in both of those numbers. Okay. Let me cut. Let's also acknowledge one of the comments regarding keeping both sides of Dempster Street in the same ward to maintain. So we're not splitting the main Dempster mile amongst too many wards. So if we could switch Mark to alternative 4A. Take a minute.
Is the percentage?
But this is similar to what we just looked at, although that entire former, kind of Upper Peninsula of the Third Ward, the Panhandle of the Third Ward, that entire Panhandle has been moved into the Fourth Ward, which kind of cleans up that corner of the map.
And what does that do with the Fourth Ward's population?
And then in order to keep the Fourth Ward population from getting too big, we took that northwest corner of the Fourth Ward, or kept that northwest corner in the Second Ward rather than moving it to the Fourth Ward.
Mark, can you put the cursor
Right there,
there?
exactly. Exactly.
Davis, that is the new boundary of the fourth ward.
That's Dempster, well, this is,
That's right.
that's Greenwood. Right, if you can zoom in, to the top of that former Panhandle. I'm sorry, it's Lake Street.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's at the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Greenwood bisects this.
Yeah, Greenwood is Greenwood bisects.
Yeah. Area there.
So if we could zoom out a little bit.
But can we stop there? And what are our numbers like there?
In that particular section,
No, just by doing those changes that we just.
right here at the top of the map, 2.5%, 57% total deviation. And we've impacted 4175. And so that is an improvement in both cases over where we started this.
So if we stay with this, then we've addressed the Sherman Plaza and we kept our percentage low, and the Fourth Ward has is not under or over significantly.
Oh, yeah, if you go to the stats, Mark.
Their numbers on the left there.
Oh, there we go.
You're
Right there.
Okay.
Yes, so we're all really.
Very, very, very.
close.
Is that gonna change when kids would go to school?
No.
No?
No,
Okay.
these are not school boundaries. Okay.
And it also leaves as, we're all fairly close to par here. The First Ward is the smallest percentage-wise, which does tend to, I would say, future-proof this map. We can anticipate multifamily construction downtown, which would be in the First Ward, as this map would show, would allow us to absorb some population downtown without triggering the necessity of redistricting next time around, which has been kind of a back of our mind goal.
Well, it really is only 10 residents off from where the Second Ward is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so
it's
it's,
very, very balanced right now.
and we could get probably even closer to zero, but the map would end up looking pretty funky. And we'd be displacing people here, there for no real impact.
Yeah, I don't think, yeah. I think we've tried to make sure that we've straightened out some of the odd corners, but we've maintained neighborhoods and the integrity of neighborhoods. So far, we've been responding to what the comments are, but the comments are here. And we're still achieving the goal of, we're actually we dropped the percentage.
Yeah. And I think Carl, Mr. Klein did make a very good point that downtown is increasingly residential, significantly more than the last time we did this map, and likely to become more so.
All the indicators are that downtowns are going to have to become much more residential.
And we'll acknowledge that downtown continues to be represented by 3 different council members, split between the 1st, 2nd, and 4th.
Yeah, and traditionally that has worked very well for everyone who was curious. I mean, over the entire time I've been on the council, the downtown has been represented by 3 members of the council. And I mean, it's a big burden to share, but so it's actually helpful that it's shared. It also brings more voices from the council on to address the downtown issues. It doesn't concentrate power in a single member of the council on the downtown. So I think by having 3 members or a third of the council represent different parts of the downtown, you know, was a smart idea when it was originally designed before I was ever on the council. And I think it continues to be a smart idea.
Let's do a quick demographic check. And this is only voting age population in this particular tool. It's not total population, but those numbers won't be too far off. And so we do continue to have 3 wards with a majority of the population, which was one of our stated objectives going in. Let's go back to the map, and I'd like to go up to Noyes Street and see what happens if there's a possibility of keeping both sides of Noyes Street in one ward or the other.
Right. So this is.
It's going to take a minute for. Okay. Yeah. Click on block and then click on the map, so we'll start to see where the blocks are drawn here.
I think maybe you have to go into start.
You have the latest lot.
Yes, and I don't even, I think, I probably have my copy because I don't think.
Oh, you don't have edit access?
Yes.
Can you do that real quick, or I can?
So this.
Up here, where's it? Yeah, so we're talking about right here.
Okay. All right.
The minor foods on one side and stack and bolted on the other side.
Right. That's how it is.
Which is how it is now.
Right.
Yeah, so we'd be impacting more people.
Yeah.
So what does the playing field look like there? Yeah.
We want to move. We want this all be in one, or do you want it all be in?
If you click right there, and I think it should pull up the census numbers. There we go. There we go. So let's.
If there's an alley that we can possibly.
There's not an alley on the south side that we use. But and the base map we're starting with is so kind of finely balanced that moving 190 folks from one to the other would throw us out of whack. So I'm not sure there's anything we can do on the south side of Noyes. Can you click on the north side to see what it looks like there?
I think the cultural center is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is why this was drawn like this originally.
Yeah. And like, I think we'll acknowledge that the numbers might not make perfect sense to those of us who are familiar with the neighborhoods, but these are the numbers we're obligated to use for this process. So it doesn't appear to me, it does not appear to me to be easily accommodated to keep both sides of Noyes in one ward or the other.
I don't think so. I think it's going to go on. And the other issue is, this is how it's, to the east, that's how it's been for more than 20 years.
Yeah.
So you can see why. Because there wasn't another way to slice it. And sometimes we do have to draw a line down the middle of the street. We're doing it on Dam Street.
Right, but the census block is drawn that way,
Yeah.
so it allows us to do that. Okay. Is there any other? So a lot of. Could we zoom into that Ward 2?
Just on the North Street block, we traditionally, first ward's pretty much represented that district. And even if you push it over, it would still be under the 10%. And it's such a cohesive community. I mean, that is like first ward community, essentially.
Yeah.
They all call me whatever side of the street I'm on. And I just think even if you put that 190, it's still going to be well under the 10% when you have that community together.
Well, let's see what happens. If we move some of that Fifth Ward into, then we're going to need to make up for Fifth Ward somewhere else.
Yeah, we're going to throw off the 5th ward then.
The 5th ward can move into the 2nd, which is
So we want to move the 73, the 112, and the 190, right? I mean, that's what you're talking about, right? This is what we're exploring.
Then
Okay, let's check the stats now to see what our deviation is. Our deviation goes to more than 8%. The 5th ward is undersized, and the 1st ward is oversized.
Oh, okay, yeah. See, Claire, that increases the deviation by 6 percentage points.
Yeah. And kicks people out of the 5th ward. So, 5th ward is undersized to begin
but the
with.
2nd ward is oversized, right? It runs Jason.
No, not
in this.
Not in this. So,
Claire, I think you should continue to be the council member, the de facto council member, and if not de jure. I mean, we all get calls from people.
Right, no, I
mean, there was a word map on the city's website for the longest time that had 4th ward residents in the 3rd ward, and I took their phone calls.
No, of course, I wouldn't stop taking these for that. All from anywhere in the city.
Yeah.
all right, so let's go back to the map. Undo those changes. Yeah. There you go. And that should take us back. Can you zoom out? Let's look at that funky Ward 2 appendage. Yeah, and I will agree. It is.
Which one is
it? It is kind of. I mean, just the whole.
Oh,
Ward
the whole
2.
Scare stuff.
Yeah, appendage, and then the 5th ward kind of loops around with that block of 525. But
I think
that particular block has so many people in it that it throws everything off. We wrestled with that.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're getting pretty close to having, because we don't want to give up the goal of having 3 council members represent downtown.
Yeah.
And if we move too much more, then we're going to have to really start redrawing and moving lines. I mean, most of these lines that we have remained the same with very small changes.
Right, and with that as one of our guidelines, we're trying not to radically restructure anything. Acknowledging that there is some desire to do that, and that would be one way of doing it, but yeah, we as a committee decided a year ago we were going to pursue a low impact approach and just kind of balance the numbers and leave folks as much as we could in their current roles.
So what, I don't know that we're going to get much better than 2.57% with the differentiation is the wards are now really
That's pretty darn close.
It's very close, yeah. And we've responded to the folks from Sherman Plaza. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah. So, Councilmember Reed, I'll invite you to weigh in if you want to do so. All right, nothing from him.
So are we,
So what should we do now?
so if we
Yes.
So I think that we should make these changes and then get some public comment based on the changes that we just made.
Yeah, that was our intention, was to have a round of public comment, do some remapping based on what we heard. And the objective or our intention is at our next meeting, which is the 4th week of May, we would make the formal final recommendation of this committee's proposed map to council for council.
I think that we've addressed where we've gotten the majority of the comments. We've looked at, and we have addressed some of the other issues, and we have looked at the funky shape of the second ward, but and looked at noise to see if it would be possible to do that. And I think we're pretty close at this point. I think that we should put this map out for public comment.
Yeah, let me just text Councilor Brady. All right, let me just. All right. Wait a second. All right. Do we have Devon? He's still on. Give me a second here. Message him.
Still don't know why they wanted to do it.
Oh, chat is disabled. I texted him. Councilmember Reed, if you are there. While we're waiting for him, let's read the room. Does this make more sense than where we started? People feel heard?
Well, yeah, exactly.
All right.
Are you gonna listen?
That's
the main thing.
As soon as we can form back to make it official. So I think what our intention to do is to release this map, let's call it option B.
Yeah.
Then that will be available for public comments. Should we do another round of online public comment with that?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so I'll set that up.
I really don't have to change anything. I think we'll tell by the date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll switch out the PDF.
You addressed the Sherman Plaza, but you didn't address any of the other issues that were brought up.
We talked a lot about that second ward issue. We talked about the noise street, and we hit on a lot of the other comments. Not all of them, for sure. And we're not going to be able to get through this process with 100% of people being completely happy.
And let me guess which group of people won't be happy.
So let me see if I can get Devon on the line to vote. He's still on the Zoom. He's still on the Zoom.
It's not responding.
Yeah, so.
I have a question. Why can't you wipe the lines clean and just start fresh? Can you answer that?
Because our goal, one of our stated goals was to keep people, to not to throw everything in the air and start fresh, but to keep people in the wards that they knew with the least amount of change possible. So that way we kept neighborhoods that thought of themselves as being part of a ward together to the greatest extent we were able to.
Well, then there's never room for change if you just allow people to just stay where they want to stay. I mean, you guys uprooted Black community from the lakefront, literally picked their houses up and moved them. Most people would think that was impossible, but you did it to us. So I don't understand why you draw new lines, start fresh, instead of building upon racism that the lines were built on.
All right, Councilmember Reed, I'm sorry, Councilmember Burns is attempting to log on now. So as soon as we get one of them.
Yeah, I'm here now, Chair.
Okay, real good. Mark, if you could zoom out a little bit, and Bobby, I assume you can see the screen.
Yes.
Yeah, we've done some real-time remapping here, and have moved Sherman Plaza back to Ward 1. We've moved all of the what used to be the the peninsula of Ward 3, the panhandle of Ward 3 into Ward 4, and kept a chunk of in our previous map, that northwest corner of the 4th Ward, we left in the 2nd Ward. So our numbers, to get our numbers to balance, and that leaves us with a map here that has a deviation of 2.57% and impacts 4,175 people. By those metrics, this map is an improvement over where we started the evening. And so our intention is to release this map for another round of public comment, and then, as previously stated, at our next committee meeting, if we don't want to make any changes, maybe we do make any changes, but we will leave our next committee meeting having approved one map to advance to City Council with our recommendation for approval.
Before you send it to the public, the 4th Ward is not contiguous. There's a red X showing that the 4th Ward is not contiguous.
I saw that too, and when I was playing with it, I think there's some glitches in the system, because sometimes you refresh it and that X goes away. But let's make sure we're clean. All right.
So Bobby, what we need to do is we need to vote to put this map out to the public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's I'll count that as a motion from Councilmember Nguyen, and if Councilmember Burns will second that motion.
Second.
And then I will vote in favor of it, so that makes it unanimous. All in favor, aye. Nobody's opposed. So option B, alternative 4A will now become option B. We'll print that, and let's make, if you can make that into a PDF that we will include in our the minutes for this meeting. Then I'll work with staff to make sure the online feedback form is set up. Great. So for members of the press and anyone else looking, we do have an online feedback form, which is accessible if you go on the city's website and just search for the redistricting page. It will take you to the feedback form. So we still remain open to feedback on our newly evolved map.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
I
So, any other further business to come before the committee?
And-
Hearing-
And Chair,
Yes,
just
Yes,
one
sir.
request, and we do this with most other meetings. Can staff for the redistricting committee send a Google invite out for this meeting? That would be really helpful.
Okay.
Yes, folks may know I sit on several
Okay.
committees, and it would be helpful to be able to more easily keep track of this if you can send a Google invite out, a recurring one, since I think we meet on a regular cadence.
Great.
Thank you.
Hopefully, our next meeting will be our last.
Right. And we probably have to meet in person next time.
We'll be 100% in person next time. Yes. All right. Thank
I'll
you
be
all.
there in person. I'll be there.
Okay. Thank you. Did somebody else hit record?
It still should be hybrid for people that are not able to attend.
Back with us.
Tina, Ms. Payton, there, it may still be also good out.
Oh, I turned off mine. All right. Tina, we'll see about that.